Settled again, I just want to say that what we give here to you today is just a little taste of what you can experience at GA. There's just a tremendous amount of singing and gathering and large worship services, and then breakout workshops like the one that I was able to attend. There's too many things to choose from that are just fantastic, and you wish you could go to all of them. But the one that I'm going to talk about today that I attended was a workshop led by Kathy Mazzari and Jody Ballant-Shear, both MDs and life coaches, and co-authors of the book, Raising Our Sons and Raising Our Daughters. I found this workshop to be one of the most valuable to me personally at GA because it gave me some powerful tools instantly that I was able to use when I had a situation where I needed to communicate and there was a conflict. And I wanted to state that Marshall Rosenberg was the founder of nonviolent communication. It's also known as compassionate communication. And this is a wonderful follow-up to our service last week that, if you were here, that Lisa Beck gave that was just touched on all of these topics about empathy and honesty and support of one another, caring and sharing. But sometimes we wonder, well, how can we do it? And the principles to nonviolent communication are fairly simple. That is that all behavior has a positive intention, which is to meet underlying needs, which are universal. We all have needs. But our behaviors employ strategies that we use to meet our needs, and these strategies may or may not be effective. Also, other people's strategies to meet their needs only reflect their attempt to meet needs, and their choices are not about you. So all needs matter. I hold your needs. In nonviolent communication, I will hold your needs with the same care that I hold my own. And nonviolent communication is a strategy for communication that prioritizes connection between people. So, we remain connected to the other person's humanity during conflict through caring and understanding and by respecting their desire for autonomy and free will while focusing on requests rather than demands. We are giving service to others for the natural joy of giving to one another. And yesterday we were at a board meeting and we watched a video, and the presenter in this video about congregations as emotional systems talked about a typical conversation between a husband and wife. He called it the conversation. And and he said it happens in all marriages, and it starts out like this. The wife is talking, or it could be the husband too, but the wife is talking, and then all of a sudden she says, "You're not listening to me." And what does the husband say? "Yes, I am." And then what does she say? She says, "No, you're not." And then what does he say? "Yes, I am." And louder, right? Well, the 4 steps to compassionate communication are that, first of all, we would make observations that are specific and objective and non-judgmental. We would acknowledge the feelings that are real emotions. We would recognize the needs like autonomy, interdependence, celebration, and then we would make requests that are clear, specific, and expressed in positive language and in the present. So imagine what the response could have been at the end of that conversation. What if the man had said, "You're right, I wasn't listening. Now I'm ready to listen to what you had to say. Could you repeat again what you just said?" Wow. So I did say at the beginning to that it could be husband or wife on either side. Okay. So in nonviolent communication, we try to focus on two questions. What is alive in us, number one, and number two, what can be done to make life more wonderful? And if you look at the slide that's up on the screen right now, the two dynamic principles are, on the one side, honesty, clearly expressing how I am without blaming or criticizing, and then clearly requesting that which would enrich my life without making a demand. And then on the other side, empathy, empathetically receiving how you are without hearing blame or criticism, and receiving that which would enrich your life without hearing any demand. So an example in the form of a sentence that they gave to us was, are you feeling blank because you need blank? For example, are you feeling hurt because you need love? Are you feeling worried because you need reassurance? Also, we were given the important idea that when our emotions run high during the conflict, especially at the beginning, that perhaps the most important thing that we can do is to... And what does WAIT stand for? Some of you already know. Why am I talking? So I had this kind of swirling around in my brain after GA, wondering at what opportunity I would have to apply this principle, when just a few days later I received a phone call from my oldest son, who was in a crisis at the time and demanding that I do something I didn't feel comfortable doing. So remembering this workshop, I listened to his complaints, and I have to say this was an important situation. It was a real serious crisis. So I just acknowledged his feelings, and I made no commitment to run and fix the problem, but rather requested that he do something while I thought about it. I requested that he move to a safe situation while I thought about it and talked it over with his dad. I waited a few days, which were some of the most difficult days of my life, to just let things cool down. It was really hard to wait. And then I called and said, are you feeling upset because you need more autonomy? I asked him if he would continue to work through the problem without our intervention, and that that I would check back with him later, which I did, and continue to do. All I can say is it made a world of difference and really brought the situation around, because I didn't panic, didn't run to fix it, and gave him a chance to do something he could do for himself. And the situation resolved peacefully, although we will continue to monitor the progress together. And I'd just like to say, if you'd like to know more about compassionate communication or nonviolent communication, you can talk to Aletha Salter. She's going to be leading a parenting workshop on November 14th. There are a lot of resources also online, just a tremendous number of resources, and also another workshop through the Center for Lifelong Learning that's going to be led by Roger Sorrow on Saturday, October 3rd, all day from 9:30 to 4:30. Thank you for listening.
At General Assembly this year was a blessing in my life, and I found myself wanting to share so many aspects of it with you here at Live Oak. Today I'm picking just a few to include in our meditation. I was most impressed with the emphasis on working together, both with UU friends and with other community organizations, to create a just world by listening deeply to each other and acting with compassionate hearts. This morning, our meditation includes an abbreviated form of a reading, Beatitudes for Justice Builders, by Reverend Lindy Ramsden, followed by a silent meditation. Please sit comfortably. Blessed are you who can question your own assumptions and listen with an open mind.
You will receive new insights beyond your imagining.
Blessed are you who suffer the attacks of others to stand up for what is right.
You will not be alone, for your courage will inspire others to rise.
Blessed are you who build friendships as well as justice.
Even when you lose an issue, you will have strengthened the foundation of your community.
Blessed are you who take delight in people.
You will not be bored in meetings.
Blessed are you who do not demonize your opponents.
Your eyes and your heart will be open.
Blessed are you who sing and dance.
You will find energy and joy to lift you on your journey.
Blessed are you who offer thanks and praise fivefold for every critique.
Your children will want to visit after they are grown. People will want to serve on your committees, and friends will be interested in your opinions.
Blessed are you who study the rhythms of history.
You will have knowledge with which to shape the future.
Blessed are you who work in coalition rather than principled isolation.
You will meet great people, learn things you didn't realize you needed to know, and have partners for the journey when you are in the lead or in need.
Blessed are you who discover, train, and encourage young leaders.
You will see your work expand and grow beyond your own time and talent.
Blessed are you who can change your mind.
You are still alive.
Blessed are you with an active spiritual life.
You will find perspective and comfort in times of loss and betrayal, and will rise without cynicism to meet the challenges of a new day.
Blessed are you who live from a place of gratitude.
For you will know the meaning of life.
May you listen deeply and open your heart with compassion.
This was my first General Assembly. I think Liz Zock talked me into it, and you know how she is. When the time came to choose Live Oak delegates, I demurred, noting that I already had so many opportunities to vote on Live Oak matters on account of my 6 years on the board. However, I did offer that I would be willing to be a delegate if one was needed. I think all of 5 minutes passed before I heard back, "Okay, you're a delegate." Okay then. I was discreetly happy about it because I am someone who really enjoys voting. Although there are obvious advantages, I won't even vote absentee because I really like the whole election day scene. And this is despite the fact that my father briefly worked for a voting booth vendor when I was in high school, and I had the embarrassing experience of accompanying him to a sales convention where he wore a blue and white striped blazer and a toupee. I always thought voting was cool, and even that couldn't ruin it for me. I have to admit, however, that I was strangely uninformed about what we would be voting on. When I first studied my packet, I was shocked to see that there were business meetings liberally spread throughout the entire 5-day assembly, many more than I could possibly attend. I quickly conferred with my board president and minister and was assured that it would be okay if I didn't vote on everything. Whew. clutching my yellow voting card, I made it to the first plenary and got the whole impact of the structure of the event. There, in a huge room holding thousands of participants, are 4 microphones: pro, con, procedure, and amendment, together with a moderator trying to manage the whole deal, including using technology to accept votes from delegates not in the room. It was not perfectly orchestrated, but it was pretty darn impressive. I also want to tell you that my yellow voting card got quite a workout. It turns out there are many, many things that Unitarian Universalists gathered in a large group want to vote on. I won't tell you about some of the more technical bylaw revision type stuff, just in case you're not as enthralled with the voting process as me. But I do want to tell you about the statement of conscience and actions of immediate witness that occurred in GA Portland 2015. The statement of conscience is proposed by our 5-member Commission on Social Witness, following 3 years of congregational study and discussion. The one that was proposed to us was called Reproductive Justice. It was exciting that it was being refined right there on the spot, as the draft language that was in our packet was already redlined and being shown on ginormous video screens at the front of the room. Many assemblies at GA had already pawed over the draft and made revisions, and there was also that amendment microphone at the front of the room too. It was pretty fast and furious. At first, I had a difficult time understanding the reason why the statement of conscience was called Reproductive Justice, because it seemed much larger than that title. However, as the discussions continued, I came to understand the statement was intended to crack open the pro-con debate about bearing or not bearing, aborting a child. The intent of the language was to broaden the discussion to ask what then of the children being born, and to assert the rights of all people to live in a world where, and this is a quote, they have living wages, safe and supported housing, high quality and comprehensive medical and reproductive health care, access to voting and the political process, affordable legal representation, fair immigration policies, paid parental leave, affordable child care, and the absence of individual and institutional violence. It made me cry a little bit. I enjoyed the nuanced and lively discussion on the statement. Our votes on any particular section were often quite close, and eloquent appeals were made for varying language and emphasis. I was also proud to see that our statement of conscience, as passed, has a hefty section of actions we can take as individuals and as congregations. I hope that we'll post that around here so that we can deepen our understanding and vision of our potential impact in this area. In addition to the statement of conscience, which develops from years of study and discussion, the General Assembly also annually considers 3 actions of immediate witness, intended to allow us to react more quickly to the challenges of the immediate environment. Of the 6 proposed actions of immediate witness that were created by petition and discussed at many assemblies, the 3 that we voted to endorse were support the Black Lives Matter movement, end immigrant and family detention now, and support a strong, compassionate global climate agreement in 2015, Act for a Livable Climate. I actually cried quite a bit during General Assembly and was moved by the passion and eloquence and bravery of our members. I know it's not just words either, and that we can make a difference, and that we are making a difference, action by action, vote by vote.
It was my first General Assembly too, and on the screen you can see a picture of me on the train, I hope. And with that, I had the honor of taking the banner with me and being in the procession with Carrie. We carried the banner together. That was a great honor. And there was so much to see that I wasn't sure, but I picked the low-carbon future because I really I've always believed in that. And global warming, though some people want to deny it, it is happening. I mean, I think pretty sure it was on Amy Goodman's show that she said this has been the hottest July in the world since they've been taking records. So one of the suggestions they had was that we should share resources, such as money and time. And we have that here in Santa Barbara. It's called the Time Bank, in which, for instance, if you have something you really like to do, like I like to cook, and I enjoy taking care of children, and I enjoy knitting, I can do that and give that time to somebody else that doesn't like to do that. And in return, I don't like plumbing, so they can do my plumbing for me. We just mark it all down on a piece of paper how much time, and you get that same time back from one person, several people. But it's a way of sharing it, and I think that's a good idea. Another suggestion they had was to get certified to make jams and jellies to sell at the farmers' markets. And farmers' markets, we have those here, which are really great because you can support your local farmers and avoid trucking everything in. And you know they're not sprayed. None of the vegetables they sell at the farmers' markets are, whereas the ones you get on trucks probably have all these artificial additives to keep them fresh. And so I want to say that I always practice what I preach because I take the buses all the time from Goleta out to Santa Barbara. In fact, on Wednesday I'm starting school again, so I have my bus pass from City College all ready to go. So I get on the bus and go all the way down to City College and back again at night. I can sleep on the bus where I couldn't sleep in the car. And I was the only person in this congregation to take the train to Portland. And it was fun being on that train, because I met a lot of UUs on that train from other congregations. And that's all I have to say.
In the picture you see up on the wall, it's a tad magnified. Do you see the Cherry Point area, the Straits of Georgia? It's a kind of a vast, and behind the folks it's a vast Strait of Georgia between Washington and Vancouver Island. In the background, you see the picture? Okay. There are 10,000 years of Lumi people's artifacts in and around this beach area, about 12 miles south of the Canadian border. The Lumi people, a Salish tribe, believe that their ancestors first landed here from the north when the glaciers were melting. This coastline was taken from the Lumi Reservation 100 years ago. It has been polluted by oil refining and other things, and is now targeted for building the largest coal train terminal and coal shipping port in North America. Thousands of industrious people from Wyoming to the coast are licking their chops at the prospects of jobs and high profits when coal dust from Wyoming starts being shipped to China. Standing in their way, literally, are the Lumi Nation tribal council that you see, standing between the Wyoming-Montana coal and the Salish Sea. Many tribes along the proposed coal route have joined the Lumi Nation to stop further pollution and desecration of their land and waters. Many of the tribal leaders have received nice checks from Pacific International Terminals, the developer of the Gateway Pacific Coal Project. You see in the foreground, many of these checks are burning. Heels are dug, and the battle is on. On the Saturday of our General Assembly, UUs from across North America joined hands and tied ribbons in front of the Oregon Convention Center with members of the Lummi Nation, calling for a halt to plans for the Gateway Pacific project. We did this to protect the people, the land, the air, and waters of the Northwest, and also as an action of immediate witness for international climate justice. What intrigued me was how the Bellingham Unitarian Fellowship, BUF or BUF, along with Commit to Respond and the Lummi Nation members, organized and sponsored the action of immediate witness. For at least 10 years, BUF has worked closely with the Lummi Nation in their struggle to protect their land and way of life. Per one tribal elder, they knew they had a friend in BUF when UUs joined the Lummis in their 2007 canoe journey. The UUs showed up, listened, learned, cooked, cleaned, set up, took down, marched, sang, and did whatever was requested of them throughout the journey. The elder noticed that BUF members were their friends who listened to them and didn't preach or try to instruct or offer unsolicited advice. That's very important to them. And another elder said that the BUF members worked hard to establish relationships of mutual respect with members of the Lummi Nation. The UUs asked questions and did not spout knowledge. They recognized the Lummi as the first people of Bellingham. BUF established a Native American Connections ministry team. BUF has continued to work with the Lummi Nation to protect the Washington coast and stop the building of massive fossil fuel corridors from the coal lands of Wyoming and Montana to the coast. BUF has helped with the Somish Water Festival in June, as well as the Totem Pole Journeys of 2014 and currently 2015, which is occurring as we speak. In the spirit of BUF and the UU action of immediate witness, I wonder if we can work with Chumash groups in our area towards climate justice in Chumash ancestral lands. Together we can work to protect these least able to avoid pollution and ill-equipped to adjust to climate change on the Central Coast. The Chumash and kindred-spirited UUs can cooperate to preserve our water, air, and soil quality. The excesses of the fossil fuel industry, from aggressive extraction practices to dangerous oil train transport, are best confronted together. Commit to Respond, the UU Climate Action Team, wants us all to take specific actions of immediate witness to stop the Gateway Coal Project and to beat the climate protection drums. And in preparation for Pope Francis's climate address to America in September, next month, and the UN Climate Agreement Paris talks in December, it is described in this flyer, primarily, please sign the letter to President Obama on the Commit to Respond website. Sign the letter to President Obama, who I suspect needs some pushing on this. Become a Commit to Respond member. It is free. Donate to the 2015 Totem Pole Journey. That's got to be on your bucket list. We have left these climate flyers at the greeters table or table outside. If you can take action on this, take this action of immediate witness. Thank you.
As others have said, attending GA, my first GA, was a truly profound experience. And this morning, I'm going to share the highlights of my favorite small group session, which was offered by Reverends Kathleen McTeague and Lindy Ramsden. It was titled Talk the Walk, Speaking Justice in the Language of Our Faith. And it was based on a book by Paul Razor called Reclaiming Prophetic Witness. The words we speak and how and where we speak them matter. They matter a great deal. The work of social justice in its many forms has been a highlight of what this cherished community has given me. As a child of a Holocaust survivor, I learned long ago that I need to speak up when I see injustice. So I was not a stranger to social justice work when I walked into that session that morning at GA. Along with many of my Live Oak members and friends, I've been active in promoting our Unitarian Universalist values through our social justice actions. The most important part of what I've done is that I did none of it alone. In many instances, I was inspired by and joined by so very many of you. There is so much good news, but there was bad news for me at GA as well. Despite all of my activism to date, I failed miserably within a few minutes of beginning their presentation on Talking Our Walk, Reverend Kathleen gave us the following challenge. We were asked to imagine that we were out in the public sphere with a group of UUs championing for a cause we deeply believed in, and the CNN reporter had singled us out. In one sentence, we needed to explain why we were there. Reverend Kathleen gave us a couple of minutes to think about it, and honestly, I flailed about miserably trying to gather my thoughts into that one powerful, coherent sentence. It was really hard to do. Reverend Kathleen went on to tell us that many or most UUs, we have a tendency to leave our spirituality at the door when we exit our places of worship on a Sunday morning to go out and live our lives in the rest of the world. And I realized that at least on some level, that was true for me. While I carried our UU values forth, I wasn't practiced or even slightly adept at voicing them. While reflecting on her GA experience, Reverend Tamara recently told us, the desire to work for social justice doesn't occur in a vacuum. It arises out of deeply held moral convictions and beliefs. We need to find theological language for our convictions and then say this loudly and clearly so people will know why Unitarian Universalists have shown up. So what did I learn from Reverends Kathleen and Lindy on that morning? Number one, if religious liberals do not speak up, others won't know that there is an alternative, liberal religious perspective. Number two, while we UUs don't all speak the same theological language, we need to think about our common ground and practice how to speak when involved in social justice actions. Number three, secular language can sound argumentative and often invites rebuttal, so it often serves to further divide those of differing opinions. But when we speak from a core of faith, that invites people to take a breath, and it might pave the way for deeper listening and greater understanding. The fourth thing I learned, participating in interfaith circles is important. We need to take our seat at that table, and the world needs to hear our liberal religious voices. Lastly, spiritual hunger and political activism frequently go hand in hand, with folks often discovering Unitarian Universalism through the door of social justice work. Getting back to that assignment at GA, after being dissatisfied with my attempt to come up with that one powerful, coherent sentence to that theoretical CNN reporter's question, I was happy to hear 3 examples of how it might be done. In each case, I will share the secular statement and Paul will follow it with the faith-based alternative. Climate change is real, and we must expand public transit to reduce the emissions that are causing so much damage.
As Unitarian Universalists, one of our core beliefs is that all life is connected. So it is a moral imperative that we shift our priorities to public transit that benefits all of us and the very life of our planet.
I am here to protest the subsidies that enrich the oil and gas industries and to demand more investments in renewable energy.
I am here to bear witness to the unfairness that gives public money to oil and gas companies at the expense of the poor and the health of the planet, because my faith requires me to stand up against injustice.
We want to shut down this coal-fired plant because it pollutes the community around it, whose members, mostly the poor, have suffered decades of health problems as a result.
Unitarian Universalism teaches that all human beings are worthy of respect and equal treatment. So we demand that this coal plant be shut down so that our sisters and brothers in this neighborhood can breathe the clean air that is the birthright of all people.
They sound different, don't they? When we speak from the core of our UU faith, we are standing in the authority of a long religious tradition rather than just expressing a personal opinion, and that adds a lot of weight to our words. In conclusion, I invite and challenge you to give this some serious thought, to practice what you might say to that theoretical CNN reporter. I invite you to join our vibrant social justice ministry here at Live Oak, led by Jan Ross. And we leave you with the words of Paul Razor.
When we participate in an anti-war demonstration,
When we write a letter protesting inadequate health care,
when we go to work in a shelter or youth program in the city,
when we sit at the side of someone in pain,
we are living and naming our theologies.
the things we do, the things we go along with, the things we are silent about, these are all a part of the faith we name and practice. May it be so.